Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Faithful Voices, bringing together disciples of Christ in the Boulder community to talk about all things great and small, mortality, the joys, the everything that life has to throw. I'm excited. Many of you may know this person, Tom Spindle. Tom, hello.
Hey, thank you for
For those
having
that
me on.
don't know Tom, let me just kind of set the stage here. So, Tom and his family had just moved into the Boulder ward just a few days for you before the fire, the
Yeah, I got
Superior.
there the 18th, 17th, 18th, whatever that Saturday before Christmas. Well,
Yeah,
whatever. It was like 10 days or 12 days or something before the fire.
and we came to visit you, and there was still I mean, you were still kind of unpacking, and I even
Yeah.
think the fire came through, like there was still boxes waiting to be unpacked.
True. True.
Remarkable. So, what I wanted to do to just kind of lay this out is to better document. Now, we've written in our ward history about the fire, and we tried to share as much as we could in a written format. I thought it would be appropriate and hopefully inspired just to maybe put some audio and some visual to it all, so we have a better recording of this. But Tom, if it's okay with you, I'd love for you to introduce your family, and then let's just spend some time and walk through the Marshal fire. Hopefully, we don't induce PTSD from you or from me, the listeners.
Yeah.
So maybe we can smile because all things are good and everything turned out really well. I hope for everyone, but we wanted to just better document. So, Tom, introduce yourself and your family.
Yeah. So, and I do want to start with that, right? That this through the whole experience, it's really been a blessing, which is, feels crazy to say about such a traumatic experience, but that's just been our feeling and our experience through all of it. It's all of it has been a huge blessing. So anyway, Tom Spindle, my wife Shayla, we have 5 kids. Bradley was on a mission at the time of the fire. And then Colin was our senior who had actually just graduated early from high school. So he was just moving out and working, prepping for a mission. And Aubrey um, was a freshman at the time. She's almost 17 now. And then uh, Camden and Melody, who I go, well, how old? It's only been a year and a half, right? Like 10, 11, 9, 10, something like that. They're 11 and 10 now. So that's us. Bradley, like I said, wasn't with us when this happened. He was actually on his mission and experienced this kind of secondhand hearing
Yeah.
stories and stuff. But um,
Walk us
kind
through. So, this was December
of,
29th. It was the 29th,
it
right?
was December 30th, right?
The
So
day before. Okay, the 30th.
yeah, Thursday the 30th. And I've got up some of my notes over here, and I can share any of this with you if it's helpful for
Sure.
some of the history stuff. But uh, stories change, right, over time. You
They get
remember
better.
things.
No.
They do. They get better, and my wife will be over there ready to correct me if I start telling something maybe not quite right. But it was a sunny day,
Yeah.
um, super windy, like crazy windy, right? And we
Crazy.
live we lived in a self storage facility where a house and office are combined. And so we're in the house. My wife managed the office, and I work from home. And so I work remote with a software team. And so I was working a half day that day. I was getting off that day, going into the New Year's holiday with New Year's Eve and everything coming up. And so the kids were just playing with some of their Christmas presents, doing some stuff, and Aubrey, my daughter, who was 15 at the time, had just kept mentioning to me back in the room where I was working, you got to see this outside. Like the wind is crazy. You got to see this. And I'm like, I'm only working till 12. I'll come check it out soon. But I kept hearing it outside, kept hearing it against the windows and everything. Anyway, I finally come out,
What's
thinking, oh yeah,
crazy about that is like, I mean, you can get wind coming out of the Boulder Canyon for sure.
yeah,
That day, the wind was moving in northwest when usually it moves southwest. So it like hits you coming, if you're in Superior, it just comes right at you. But it was a little different today. It was heading north of us. And you don't typically see that.
Yeah. And that's what was going on. So I finally am like, okay, shut my computer. Aubrey and Camden are like, you got to come outside. We went outside again. It's sunny. It's cold, right? It's
Yeah.
December, but
30th.
there's no snow on the ground, right? It's super dry. And we go and we would just stand and like lean into the wind as hard as we could because it was blowing so hard that you could lean into it and not fall over. And we're like, wow, that's crazy. And then Aubrey was like, you got to see these clouds blowing by too. I mean, look, you can see how the wind is moving because of these clouds that are blowing by. And we're out there on the edge of Superior. Everything's dry and dusty looking. And so she had been kind of under the impression that it was just big dust clouds, right?
Yeah.
We moved from Alabama where everything is green and lush and it rains a ton and wildfires aren't even a consideration, right, in our heads. Um, but after, just a couple of minutes, there was some idea that maybe those weren't clouds of dust, maybe it was actually smoke. Um, we're just messing around in the house, and Colin's playing on his Oculus or his VR headset with some friends back from Alabama, and he goes, "Hey, what happened to the internet? I just lost internet." And we're like, "Oh no!" We start checking and going in the office to check, and realize that the internet's out. And now we start to get concerned that maybe this is a fire that's actually affecting, you know, our utilities, right? This
Yeah.
is a big deal. We start looking across the street. Directly across the street was the Sagamore neighborhood, and whatever that's in there, 200 houses or something. And
Yeah.
out our door, you can see straight down the street of houses. And we realized that at the far end of the street, smoke is starting to fill up in the neighborhood. And I go, "Hey, guys, maybe grab some coats, maybe put on your shoes in case this is something we need to make a quick exit." This is, we lived with tornado threats a lot in Alabama. And there's different prep for that, but still that mindset kicks in of there could be an emergency here. Let's be ready to go. And Shayla calls her sister up, Christine Ames, who lives over in Thornton, to say, "Hey, have you heard anything about a fire?" And at that moment, again, smoke has started filling up more in the neighborhood across the street. Kids are throwing on shoes, and Shayla and Colin are in the back office and see a window across the street, kitty corner from us next to that neighborhood, and they yell, "Fire!" There's fire in the grass literally across the street from our place, and I yell, "Kids, go!" Right? Uh, they run out the front door. Shayla doesn't have her shoes on yet. I don't have a coat on yet. I reach in the closet, grab a coat, end up with one of Shayla's that I throw on. She sweeps the counter at the kitchen. She has a backpack right there. Phones, wallets go into the backpack, and I'm like, "Come on, we got to go." We open the front door, and there's smoke everywhere. It starts billowing in our front door. Some burning embers drop in, and I slam that door. And that front door would take us out of the gate of the outside the gate of the storage facility, versus going back would take us into it. We needed to get back in there anyway. That's where our car was. So I grab her. We run through the house and we punch out a screen out of a window. It's all one story. So, but it was just get out mode, right? It wasn't even thinking. Just go, open window, punch screen, step out, and it's Armageddon. It's just insane. The wind is blowing like crazy. It's loud. You can't hear anything, and there's smoke everywhere, ash in the air everywhere. Shayla's immediately looking for the kids. We sent the kids out the front door. Where are the kids? The fire was coming from that direction. She's yelling for the kids. We don't see them. I'm yelling for the kids. We notice they're back around one of the storage facility units trying to get out of the wind and waiting for us to open up the garage because we use a storage unit for our garage. It's
Yeah.
locked with a
Get in the car.
padlock. So Shayla runs over there, unlocks it, opens the garage, kids run over, and we've got, about, 15 seconds of, okay, we're in this garage area where we're not getting smoke blown in our faces, and it's just kind of intense. We're like, this is real, right? I've never been in anything like this. We hop in the van. Aubrey says we should say a prayer. So before we even back out, we prayed. It's been a minute since I've told the story. Apologies. Um, I knew we were going to be fine, right? It was a really intense and kind of scary situation, but I just knew we were going to be fine. There was peace immediately. We backed out into, again, that whirlwind of smoke everywhere. Literally, the garage, the unit we're parked in, is 20 yards, 25 yards from the house. And the house, you can only see about half of it now. Smoke is so thick coming from that direction. That's where the gate out is. We drive over to the keypad to punch in the code, and we can't see the keypad. We can't get a code in, and we can't see the gate. And that's the direction the fire was coming from. And we're like,
Yeah.
I don't know, we can drive that direction. So we drive the opposite direction from the gate, because if you looked the other way, which is south, I think, it was blue sky, right? You could look up and see the clouds of smoke, and then you could see blue sky. So we drove down to the far end of the units toward the blue sky. Shayla called 911 while we were driving. 911 said, get away from the fire. Like, that's all. And then they hung up, right? They're not sending anybody. They don't have anybody available to come. Everyone's moving that direction, right? By then, hopefully, some people might have been aware of the evacuation notice. I know one went out. I don't know if it's because we were new or because it just didn't get done, but we didn't. We ran when we saw flames, right? We weren't aware of anything else, but there was an evacuation notice put out, and so there's tons of people leaving. We get to the far end, we look back, and you can't see the house anymore, right? A wall of smoke. We park the car, and we was like, well, there's nowhere to go except over the fence. We're going to go across this field, and we're going to hit that road over there. What's the name of the road? You remember, Aubrey? Oh my gosh. What's the road that runs? What? McCaslin. Thank you. Gall. You leave for a place for a year and you forget everything. We're going to head for McCaslin, but to get to McCaslin, you got to go across a field and up a hill, up to there's a little park area where you can start some hiking trails.
Yeah.
So that's our destination. So everybody gets out. I've got Shayla's coat on. I found, this is a miracle. So I'm a photographer, and my camera bag with my main camera was in the back of the van. I had forgotten to take it out, and so it was there. So I grabbed that, threw that on my back, and then that's all we had was the coats and clothes on. And we got out, and everybody was kind of calm. It's an intense situation, but we were like, all right, guys, we're just going to head this direction. And Aubrey had said earlier in the week how she really wanted to go run that hill where, she's a big runner. Kids have been. And I said, you know what this is like? This is like the Sound of Music, guys, right? We're going to head up over that hill. And we laughed, and it's just funny that we could have that, kind of joke in the middle of this situation. We got over the fence. We started across the field, but we saw that the fire had hit there's kind of a junkyard area that was next to the storage facility, and we could see it was there. And we're like, okay, funny joke. We have to keep moving. This fire is coming this direction. We don't know how fast it's going to come. So we're cutting across the field, and that wind is intense on our backs, knocking us down, keep falling down. I've got my 9-year-old Melody. She was only 8 at the time. She was only 8. So I've got her. Camden's with Colin, the oldest son at home, and Aubrey and Shayla are running together. And people keep tripping and falling. And there's a trail to the side, but there was a barbed wire fence between us and the trail. But finally we hit this spot where Melody and I both went down, and she was about to get up to keep running, but we had gone down because of a little ditch. And I went, crawl. We can get under that fence. So Melody went under, I went under. When we popped up, we saw that Camden and Colin had hopped over the fence, and we were on the trail, and Shayla and Aubrey were trying to go between the fence and had gotten hooked on it. Huh. And I was just like, my lizard brain was just like, they'll make it, run. And then I went, that's not how this works. And I ran over there to help Shayla get untangled. And Aubrey goes, I lost my phone. And I looked at her, I said, quick scan, no phone, we got to go. And we hit that trail running. We got down to the end where it cuts across the hill, looked back, Shayla yells, fire. It was in the field. I can't tell you how close it was, right? Like it's all this surreal, just keep moving.
Yeah.
But once we make that turn, the wind's then like blowing in our face, right? Because before it was in our back and now it's in our
Yeah.
face. We get up to the little park area though. We make it up to the park area, and it's back at our backs again, just pushing us. And you can see McCaslin, just this line of cars, back to back to back to back, just whatever, 10 miles an hour, because everybody's trying to get out of there. As we come out of the parking area, which is like a dirt gravel area, and hit the sidewalk, the wind gust just knocked Shayla right over, and she slams into the ground, and she's just like done, right? And I think I stepped on her foot. Her shoe flew off. Her sock actually came off and blew away. One of the kids grabbed her shoes before it went too far in the road. And so
The
we sat
sock
there.
didn't make
The sock didn't make it. We just sat there and took a breather, right? We're okay. We're together. Put shoe back on. What do we do now? We're going to just head south on McCaslin. We're just going to hit the sidewalk here and keep going. So we got up and we were walking, and this truck pulls over and another one behind it. And you can tell they're motioning to us and look, and they're like, "Do you need a ride?" And we're very much people who don't like to impose on others.
Yeah.
And like, "You're all trying to get out here." Yes, we need a ride. And they're like, "Get in." And so Shayla and the two little kids get in the passenger side of the first pickup, and then Colin and Aubrey get in the second pickup, and I just hopped in the trailer that the first one was pulling. I think during that time, some point you called me. I missed it for obvious reasons. And so I'm on there. My sister-in-law called me, who lived over, not Christine, but Shayla's youngest brother, his wife. They live in Thornton or North Glen. She had called freaking out. I hear the messages, and we're driving away, and I call her back, and she's like, "We're coming to get you." And I'm like, "Don't you dare, right? Stay away. Traffic's crazy. We're safe. We're getting away. Just wait. We'll come to you." And then I think I called you and was able to talk to you really quickly. Manuel and Manuel were the drivers who stopped. They have their own landscaping business. They saw us. They were our angels that afternoon, and they drove us down to a spot, pulled out, resituated people to get me out of the back. It was really cold actually. Once they got driving, that wind was going, so they got me in the truck and said, "Where can we take you?" And we said, "Look, a mile, whatever. We can stop and somebody can come get us." And they're like, "No, we're fine. Our families are fine. They're north of here. Where can we take you?" And so they drove us over to Thornton to Shayla's sister's house. Um, and they had to keep rerouting because Google was trying to take them a certain way, which would
Yeah.
take them up into the fire. And so they kept rerouting until they got us there. And there was even ash falling at the Ames house. But
Crazy
there's
day.
the nutshell version.
Well, so from here, so you find out your house burned down, including all
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
everything.
It only took a couple of hours. My brother-in-law was like, "Hey, you got to check out the Denver Post," because you leave there and go, "We couldn't see our house in the smoke. Maybe it's okay. I'm resigned to the fact that it probably burned." Denver Post website had 13 images. Like the first 13 images, one of them was a picture of our house in flames. And we're like, "Oh, well, that answered that." So, yeah.
From here, with the time remaining, help us articulate some of the blessings that you've seen post fire, and kind of summarize it, and help us. I mean, inspire us. Give us the faith and the experience that tough things can happen. Can't predict them, and you go through them. But usually, on the outside, there's a silver lining. There's hope in the future. So maybe take a few minutes and just kind of walk us through post fire, some of the blessings that you've recognized in your life and that of your family.
Yeah, sure. I mean, first of all, it was just the crazy outpouring of love that we felt. I mean, I already talked about the immediate peace we felt in the midst of actually running. The first blessing we saw was that wind that kept knocking us down was pushing us in the right direction, right? It was like the Lord saying, "Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going." But after the fire, we were overwhelmed with love. You were calling us every day, morning, afternoon, checking in on us. The ward members were reaching out to us. Um, my sister-in-law, the one who was really, really concerned for us and said she was going to come pick us up, reached out to some news stations, and people started interviewing us and sharing our story. Um, she started to GoFundMe. People donated, so monetarily we were really well taken care of, which was a huge blessing because we didn't have insurance yet. We had sold our home, which as soon as you sell your house insurance goes away, and you're supposed to get renter's insurance right away. And we hadn't quite done it yet. We were, that
Yeah.
day or the
On the
day
to-do
next day we
list.
were going to work on it, so we didn't have insurance. So we were super blessed that way. But really, it was just the number of people who reached out and said, "What can I do?" Or not even "What can I do?" Just showed up. There was a couple, the Bradburys, who lived in Superior and had their house. They were just moving out and putting it up for sale. And they reached out to you, who reached out to us and connected and said, we're not going to sell our house. We're going to give our house to you for the next few months so that you have a place that you can call home and you can settle in for until you can get things figured out, which was just such a huge, huge blessing to have a spot. And it was, we could walk the kids to school, um, and we were able to stay there rent free. It was amazing, for 4 months. And then we felt terrible again, like you could have sold your house, right? Because then they hit a kind of a little slower market, and we're like, oh no, oh no. But well, we kept praying, and they sold their house. Everything worked out. So again, the Lord just kept taking care of us and taking care of the people who took care of us. Um, there were so many members of the ward that donated clothing, that donated dishes, that donated pillows. Um, my brother and sister-in-law from Colorado Springs were up that night with backpacks, with pajamas and toothbrushes and toothpaste, right? Didn't ask, what do you need? They just showed up, and the kids were like, oh, great, right? We were able to change out of these smoky clothes and put on some pajamas and brush our teeth, and some of them had little games, some of them had stuffed animals. After that, just my faith, our kids' faith. I mean, just you can't buy those kind of experiences, right?
Yeah.
Watching the testimonies that Aubrey gained and that Camden and Melody gained, and Colin's serving a mission now, right? And he was going to anyway, but the faith that they gained and the experience of learning, I can do anything with the Lord's help. I can get through anything with the Lord's help. We felt over and over again. We had the chance to meet Elder Wong, who came
Yeah.
to do that fireside for the whole state.
Yeah.
Uh, he spoke directly to Aubrey and
Agree.
answered one of her prayers. She's been feeling like she should go on a mission. She has a few years to go, but it was a big question on her mind that she's been asking the Lord about. And Elder Wong spoke directly to her and answered her prayer. It was amazing. We got to see Jimmer Fredette, who's been a big, sports hero of ours. He came and did that again fireside for everybody and got to talk to people. And uh, then we were able to move out here, which we didn't want to. Again, one of the biggest things we loved about Boulder Ward was the immediate feeling of family we had there. We had lived in our ward in Alabama for 13 years, and it felt like home. We had lived in Boulder Ward for 13 days, less than 13 days, and it felt like home. And you all took care of us like we were family, and we felt that, and we loved it. And then the Lord said, "I need you in Utah," and we said, "Why?" And one of the greatest blessings that's come from that is there's a brand new temple literally 5 minutes away from our house, the Saratoga Springs, Utah temple.
Yeah.
And this last December, about a day before the anniversary of the fire, I got an unexpected email saying, "We're so excited you're interested in being an ordnance worker at the temple. Thank you for your interest. Come here at this building at this time to get set apart." And I went, I never told anybody that I wanted to be an ordnance worker, but I went, and they said, "Yes, you can do it." And now I get to be an ordnance worker at that temple, which is just an incredible blessing. And it really feels like a huge reason that I'm here in Utah. I don't know all the reasons why the Lord needs us here yet, but getting to be a part of that temple and serve there has certainly been a huge, huge blessing for me already.
We must be recording on a Saturday. I apologize. There's some noise. Welcome into the
It
Craig
is
Room.
it is filtered out. I haven't heard it at all. So,
No, it's awesome. It's good. And I don't know why I'm wearing a suit on a Saturday.
you
I,
know, it's
I'm
it's
breaking every rule, personal
faith,
rule.
faithful voices, right? You gotta look the part. So,
We
yep.
definitely had some church stuff going on this morning.
The
Okay,
one other
so
thing I'll say, I want
yeah,
to share like blessings that come after is felt so much like Job and Manuel, one of the angels who picked us up. We had a discussion, a gospel discussion with him as we drove, as he was driving us away from the fire, and he mentioned how it's kind of like Job,
like Joe.
and how the Lord blesses us, and we have seen that same thing where we feel like we've been blessed, twofold. Like the Lord's doubled anything we lost, we've gotten back at least twofold, right? And that's, we were in a really little house, which was nice. We loved it, but we were in this really little house, and we have this beautiful home here now that we're actually able to dedicate our home. We did it on the anniversary of the fire and
Cool.
had an incredible spiritual experience, right? That'll be a part of our family forever. And we just have felt like spiritually and mentally and emotionally and even temporally the Lord has just poured out blessings on us.
How cool. Thank you, Tom. All right, I want to one more question. We got some soccer games. We got to divide up and go be heroes for our families. Um, okay, I'll do it this way. What counsel would you have for anyone who's going through a difficult time?
The first thing, and the always thing, is trust in the Lord, right? Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thee for good. That is the most important counsel that I've learned, and has been reiterated to me over and over through this experience and since. Um, the Lord knows what he's doing, and if we will just let him, he will make everything work out. It doesn't mean it'll be easy. It doesn't mean it'll always feel good. Uh, I'm a journal writer, right? The things we lost weren't super important. The things that burned was not a big deal. But I had 10 years, 12 years of journal writing every single day. I had built up a habit where I had a decade's worth, and I had 20 journals that, I don't know how valuable they were, but they were important to me. Uh, they're gone, right? In a heartbeat, they're gone. And it's okay. I'll think about that every once in a while where, let's look up. I could look up that date and tell you at least what I had. Oh, no, I can't. I can't look that up, which I haven't quit writing. I didn't stop writing even the day of the fire. I haven't missed a day, but it's all digital now. I
Yeah.
haven't written a journal entry with ink
Even
and
in
paper in a year and a half, but trust in the Lord. He makes it work. And if we'll just trust in him, we can have joy, like President Nelson says, in any circumstance. Um,
yeah,
that would be the number one. Then I guess number two would be let people help. Just let them help, and appreciate that help, because we got some bags of clothing and we couldn't use all of it, right? And so then you're like, what am I going to do with? We were just so grateful. We used what we could. We donated the rest, right? We got pillows and we used what we could and we donated the rest. And we got dishes and we got silverware. And there's dishes that we'll keep forever that'll have somebody else's name on it. A pan, and I'll never get rid of that pan because it reminds me of the love people gave. They just pulled stuff out of their cupboard and said, here, I have a set of tools that are an old toolbox, and it's awesome, and I'm never going to get rid of that. That's going to get passed down in my family now, but it's not, it's from a different family, but that's it's meaningful now because somebody just ran in their garage and said, I bet you're going to need tools now. Here you go. Take these. And so let people help. It's easy to go, you know what? No, I don't want to trouble you. I don't want to put you out, or I can do this on my own. I got this, or even with God's help, I can do this. The people reaching out to help are God's help. That's who He sends to do it most of the time, is those people. So let people help, and let people hear, and let people know what you're going through, and just know it'll be okay. It really will be okay.
We'll close this way. The verse that comes to mind that's kind of summarized our discussion here is Isaiah 61, verse 3. The Lord, it's Isaiah talking about the Lord, and he's speaking about our Savior. He says, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, and the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. So to his glory, I think you are a literal representation of the beauty that can come from ashes in, through, and with a covenant connection to our Savior, Jesus Christ. And thank you for coming on and sharing your testimony and the experience and how the Lord's blessed you. We miss your family. You always have a place here in the Boulder Ward and the Boulder
Thank
community.
you. We love it there. Like I said, whenever we come visit Colorado, that's where I go to church, is Boulder
All right.
Ward.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening for this episode. Tom and Shayla and the Spindle family, we love you. You better go Melody in the soccer game. Do well today.
Awesome.
And we'll catch everyone later.
Appreciate it.